Good morning, New Eden. Today is November 14th, 2021, and this is the Federation Frontline Report, a podcast about EVE Online with a focus on faction warfare news and interviewing the players of EVE Online. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout, and my co-host is Samson.
Good morning, New Eden. How's it doing, everybody?
Today we are interviewing CDLoon, CEO of Red Sky Morning and member of Local is Primary. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's kick this on off here. How did you get started in EVE Online?
So I'm probably one of the oldest guys you'll have on here. So I started in 2005, 2006. I'd just come out of playing EverQuest 2, running the guild for a couple of years, and I wanted something to change. And everything was fantasy. Everything was elves and goblins and shit. And I found EVE Online. It was like, yeah, this is different. A bit of spaceships. So I logged in, and there was no help back then. The new player experience was non-existent. You just in at the deep end. So like anything, most people, we mucked around for a bit, and we fell into a high sec core. Did some PvE stuff and messed around. We were right on the board of ECP8R, which is Terinos high sec and low sec Nosec. So we dabbled in Nosec a bit, and then we got war decked, as everyone seems to. Enjoyed the PvP, and after a while a bunch of us separated off to do our own thing. We set up a high sec war corp for a while, Red Sky Morning actually, and that was about the time that faction warfare was starting up, so we kind of got in early.
So it was around like 2008?
Yeah, it's 2008, 2009. There's actually a FanFest video in 2009 faction warfare table of me talking about them paying LP for closing plexes. So I've been on this boat for a long time. So we were running fleets in Omaha faction warfare with battleships. I mean, there's still battle reports with 50, 100 battleships on them, which you don't get these days, sadly. So after doing that for a while, we went off to Stain as a corps, and then we joined Brick Squad, who were one of those alliances that there was quite a few of around that time. But we eventually ended up taking Gemina and fighting Russians, and after that we kind of dissembled, and I went off to Black Legion for a few years in Nosec, and finally I got bored with Nosec and moving supers around and on your own in EU Prime. So I quit for 3 years. And then when I decided to come back, I mean, I kept on training, kept on keeping an eye on things. You never leave EVE Online.
Right, reading the news all the time.
Exactly. So when I decided to come back, it was about December 2019, just before COVID, luckily. And I came back. I thought I'll reopen our corp and I'll go back to faction warfare because that's where the fun is. And within a week or two of opening it, the core of my corp that I used to play with, or for years, all came back. So we suddenly had a bunch of 10 guys who knew how to play the game, and we had good amounts of money behind us, so we could actually help influence the Warzone. And I think we've made a difference since then. So it's been great fun again.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I see that recently you guys have caught some pretty awesome prey. You caught a Royquil and an Orca just recently. Do you have any good stories behind that?
We're quite lucky because we're based out of the Bleaklands, and there's an awful lot of traffic tries to go through the Bleaklands to Omaha. So there's a lot comes through our way. But I mean, the Royquil was just someone spotted it in Camella trying to jump out of a high sec gate, so I burned over there in interdictor and just perma pointed it, and it actually tried to self-destruct, but he got killed before then. Unfortunately, a dock worker's got on the kill mail, but then we caught his Kronos as well, so it was a double whammy.
That's what that is. Okay, I saw the Kronos there, and he didn't mention it, and I was like, "There's also a Kronos."
Yeah, so as the Royquil self-destructed, we tackled the Kronos. He was trying to get away, and I was just killing drones until the rest of the guys blops in, and we killed him as well, just shits and giggles.
Those are the best.
Yeah, and the Orca was just some new guy mining in Nosec, which you don't do without experience, right?
Yeah. Well, they do. They do.
They
and
did.
then we blow them up.
Exactly. So we got a Hulk and an Orca on that one. So it's been a good day. And then while we're doing that, the AT team are kicking ass and running that. So it's been a good day overall for us.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about the AT tournament. How you guys got involved in that? How long have you guys been in doing the AT tournament, and just how you're doing today?
This is our first year, I think. I mean, some of the guys came to us at the beginning of when it was first announced and said, "Look, we want to set up an AT team with you." And I mean, they're not all obviously with us, but the core of the team, and especially the training, was all local is primary. And we get this, obviously put money into it, and they spent weeks training, and they've done really well. So we're very proud of them getting to fourth, and of course they made some good money out of it with 65 Billis Barguest kills, and obviously those faction ships they've just won. So
yeah, I guess were you guys super excited about the announcement of the prizes? Because I know before you got to the point where you were knowing that you were going to be landing in fourth place, you got to see that pretty much everybody got something this year.
Yeah, I think it's been a much better balance of prizes over previous years. I mean, if you weren't in the top three the last few years, you weren't going to get anything. Whereas now you've been getting things if you were from 6th place or no, I think
it was 16th.
Yes, that's what I think, 16, something like that. But you were starting to get ships then, which made it actually worthwhile for some of the smaller participants to actually even get their money back on entering. So it's been a good tournament as well.
Yeah, and so you guys ended up fourth place.
Yeah, which is a great achievement for
the first year that you've ever done it. Faction Warfare Alliance. I think that you guys.
First year that the Alliance has done it. I mean, there's some guys in there, but yeah, exactly.
That is interesting. So but some of your pilots are experienced AT tournament participants.
The captain Damasis is a much victoried pilot. So he's got a lot of experience there. But some of our guys, it's their first time doing it, and they've done really well.
Interesting. So for 10 of the 16 teams rosters, it is their first AT. Oh, wow, that's interesting. That comes from Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
And,
Jackman.
And 187 said that that you guys gave the Orca some advice after.
He convoed us actually to say, look, what did I do wrong? How did you catch me? And we're like, well, the first thing was, I mean, I tackled them, and unfortunately, I had a DC, but they killed my ship and potted me. Well, I was dead in the water, but they stayed there. So the next guy's coming up to catch them anyway. So we told them, you got to watch your D-scan, you got to get out when these things happen. Yeah, because we don't want to be. We don't want these are new guys. You want them to progress in the game. You don't want them to give up.
Yeah, well, when someone after we kill them, usually, I mean that's the thing. Like if someone asks, if they open a conversation, I'll tell them what's up.
Yeah, and that's
exactly. Yeah, you want them to carry on playing the game. You want more people in the game.
Exactly.
And just before the show started,
again, and then we'll kill him again, and then he'll tell him what he did wrong.
Well,
he'll join us.
We killed. Yeah, the one guy we killed went off to go and look into doing some PvP with his Corp and Alliance. He's part of Silent Company or LinkNet.
Okay.
So we said, look, they do a lot of training fleets. Go and get involved in their training fleets, and you'll learn PvP. So he's going to go out and do that now, which is great because that means the more people PvP, the more people there is to shoot, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Abso-fucking-lutely.
Just before we started the show, we were talking about how shooting people is some of the best ways to recruit people into your corporation. Yeah.
So the core of my corp, there's like 4 or 5 of us that we've been together near the start. A lot of them came to my wedding. We went to theirs in New York, and it's been really good, like having these contacts. We meet at FanFest and stuff, and we do the same things. One of them was a guy called Al Titan, and we saw him had a war. He was trying to grief people running missions, and we were like, "Hey, can you help us?" And he's like, "Are you going to shoot me?" And we're like, "No, actually, can you just get this guy aggressed?" And they did, and obviously we killed him. And the next thing we know, this guy's in our corp, and we've known him for 12 years now. So I mean, that's how you build these things, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what was the thing that really draws you to faction warfare over the 0.0 over? I mean, it sounds like you guys have options. Like some of us, like me, I don't really have a lot of options. And a lot of times when I'm building up my corporations, I don't have a lot of options. I have the ability to like go join somebody else and do something with them. But if I'm going to build up my own corporation, faction warfare appeals really heavily to me because I can just jump into it. I can be part of a community. I can start making some ISK while I'm murdering people. But what brings a powerful corporation such as yours to bear on wanting to stay in faction warfare?
Well, I mean, let's say we were really birthed in faction warfare, so it's our home. But what brings us back there is the fact that, you know, we're all getting older. When I was younger, I could play 12, 18 hours, have a few hours sleep, go to work. You know, I'm 46 now. I can't do that anymore. You know, I want to log on for a few hours in the evening. I want to have minimal logistic problems with getting ships out to Nosec or whatever, and I want to log in and have a fight. You know, I used to have a Nix when I was in Black Legion, and trying to move that thing because they were all US move ups, and in the EU there'd be 2 or 3 guys trying to move them. You know, I once I jumped into an empty system and they probed me down and they were 6k from me in my Nix, and it was brown pants time, you know. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. I want to be able to log in, go out, pull up a fleet, or just jump in someone else's fleet and just kill shit. And
that's really good for that.
Every time is where that happens.
I do love to have the war happening right on your doorstep 24/7. It's never going to go away. It's not going to stop. It's, you know, there's always going to be a third party or the enemy at your doorstep wanting to knock it.
And you can make them undock. I mean, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get a fight because people see you coming and they want to. But if you push a system hard enough, they'll come out and defend it, or they'll come out and attack it. Either way, you know, iHub bashes are great for content. You're trying to pick them off. We had one last week when they were taking, because Mimics are on the rise at the moment because the farmers, obviously. So we just got in a bunch of fly catchers and we're sniping shit on the iHub because that was all we could do with the numbers we had at that time. You know, it was just a bad time for us. But there's always something you can do, even if you just need to go out, do a bit of plexing, earn some money. You know, making some LP, make some ISK. You can do that, and it's there. And like I say, if you need to go and get a ship, you can go to your nearest hub without too many warrior kids. There's always going to be careful, but without too many warriors, easily get a ship and get back in the action. Whereas when you're in Nosec, sometimes you got to wait for someone to bring a shipment in, or you got to go 40 jumps, and I just don't want to deal with that anymore. You know, I want action on my doorstep, ready to go.
Absolutely.
And faction warfare always brings that.
That's awesome. So, I just wanted to throw out there real quick. Thank you, Macro, so much for the subs that you just gave us.
Yeah,
that's
dude,
super awesome.
Gifted subs.
And that is something that I really like about faction warfare. That's the thing that draws me as I look to the future and try and build something up that's kind of, you know, it's something that is, I really look forward to being able to just, you know, once things are seeded, once you have things going, you can just have war and just death and destruction and dock back up, get your shit, get back out there and murder some more.
Keep going.
I mean, system sieges are the greatest fun. I mean, you bring in a few billion ISK worth of T1 ships, and you just throw them at each other for hours, and it's so hilarious. You know, you look at kill board, there's like pages of green and the odd on red, and you're just like, that was a fun night of constant action. You don't get that anywhere else. You know, in Nosec, you'd sit on a Titan for 4 hours before you actually jump, and then you're sitting in tie-dye, and you might kill 5 ships. You know, I was there for the Battle of BR-TAC, you know, in my dread shooting Titans. That thing went on for like 16 hours, and it just wasn't fun. You just don't know if you're going to get out alive, and you can't do anything about it if you suddenly get primary, because you go from nothing to dead straight away. So I don't miss that shit, you know. I enjoy faction warfare for the straight at it. And of course you meet more people in faction warfare because you're not all in one big alliance or one big blue zone. You know, there's people in Noob Corp, there's people in other alliances or the corps, and you can get a good working together thing, and you can bring those corps into your alliance, or you can bring those 24th guys or the noob corp guys into your corp, and you're constantly refreshing that roster.
Yeah, it is a really good way to meet new players. I think that's one of the, and now that they're starting to like push players with the new player experience into faction warfare a little bit, I find that that's some of the stuff that's kind of really interesting with being able to just constantly see the new source of blood that's coming through Eve.
I think CCP don't emphasize that enough. It's not. I was talking to CCP Sledgehammer at Eve London last week, and one of the things, we've got pages of stuff that faction warfare could be improved on. But I think that's the most important thing, is that when the new players are doing the tutorials, they're not pushed into faction warfare enough when there's so much lore, so much content, so much. It's an easy learning curve. Okay, you might die a few times, but you're going to be making LP to replace those ships fairly quickly. It's an easy content source for people who want to learn PvP.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. That's something that I really hope that someday we get a big expansion for faction warfare, because it has not happened since the very beginning of faction warfare. We've had small updates, we've had some interesting little things that have improved or hurt the Warzone, but
the suspect timer for perplexities was probably the best thing.
When I saw that happened, I was like, man, that's a quality of life improvement that is just so well needed.
Because my sex status is ridiculous, because someone comes in your plex, can you fight them? It doesn't matter who they are, but if they're not suspect, you're going to get a timer, security status here. It doesn't bother me because I never leave low sec. That's what Elds are for. But by the same token, it is a barrier for people getting into faction warfare because they can't go and replace their ships easy.
Right, no, and it's a huge barrier and confusion for some people, because I remember when I was new, I was like, why would you shoot me if you're neutral to me? Like, you're neutral, aren't you? So, what?
Exactly. It's a steep
why would you think that?
Why would I not shoot you?
Right, exactly. What's my reason for not shooting you? And it's like, well, don't you want to be friends? I remember, a lot of newbies when they're coming into the game
after we shoot you.
Yeah.
But it opens up that concept that, hey, this is a bad guy. They're going to murder you. Well,
apparently I'm the most toxic guy in a faction warfare, so that might go for me. Which, it's one of those things as well. The smack talk does go with the game. Sometimes maybe get carried away a little bit, but a lot of it you can react to what other people are saying. So you come out as being toxic when you're just responding in kind. So, but the Minmatar don't really like me that much. The ones that I've met anyway and shot.
And that's kind of like the I kind of put it to
don't like me.
To a certain degree, like, I come from a big state that's all about football. So like I akin it to like the Packers hate the Bears, and shit gets toxic between those two, but really it's not true toxicity when it comes down to like
it's what you say, soccer in the UK. In the UK, football's a big thing, and the vitriol between teams, it's incredible. But at the end of the day, you're all enjoying the same sport, and once you take a bit of the emotion out of it, you can have a good debate about it and go, well, actually, you did really well there, or and faction warfare and even in general is different, the same. You might hate, it's like the Alliance talk, you might hate the other team you're playing against, but you give them a good fight in local, and what was that fit you were using there? And that's especially if you go to Eve meets like the Fan Fest or Eve London, you meet people you've been shooting in the face for months, and you buy them a beer and you go, "Had some good fights, haven't we?" Because that's we're actually quite a unique role playing game here. Eve Online doesn't have anything else out there the same with the same amount of loss when you die and just the real penalties, and it takes a certain sort of player to play Eve Online, as you well know. It's not an easy game to get into.
It takes a player that's tired of cookie cutter MMOs, that just do the same crap over and over again with no real consequences. When there's real consequences, the PvP is just
That's
Yeah, and it does drive your emotions when you lose that 2 billionth pod. You're screaming.
Yeah, no, that's the
know?
thing that when I played a lot of
when
other
I kill
games.
that 2 billionist pod that they're screaming and it feels good.
Yeah,
Precisely. Yeah.
but I mean, even with Atrons and stuff, my heart will get pumping because
Oh,
Eve
gotcha.
is not a game
absolutely.
about like when I play like World of Warcraft or which I only got to like level 30 when it first came out, and then I was like I played some PvP for it, and then I hit the like next tier of PvP where you're at the very lowest of and I was like, I'm not gonna run around in PvE a whole bunch so I can be good at PvP, and then but my whole thing
to you that you can actually
you can
better
do
PvP
just by doing PvP.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I mean,
but
PvP. Wow, you lose your shit. You go back and to your gravestone. You get it back again.
There's no.
Whereas Eve, that ship's gone forever. You
Right.
might get lucky about to get some mods off it if you get back to it in time. But for
I
the
might have
majority,
10 sitting in the hangar, but that particular one is definitely gone.
Yeah.
and when I'm playing those games, a lot of the times what I'm playing for is I'm killing things to get more items, to kill things to get more items, to kill things to get more items, to kill more things to get more. And in EVE Online, I'm not killing things to get items. I'm killing things for the thrill of the hunt, for the thrill of the victory, the horrible feel of
Which is
defeat.
why, after like I don't know how many months I've been hanging out with you guys, that I finally I have like $1 billion ISK worth of loot sitting in a box, and I finally took it and put it on a rifter and brought it out on the last stream, and it was awesome, dude. Just throw whatever your loot is on a ship and go out and get it.
I mean, that's a free ship, right? That's free. That's free loot.
It's free.
You know, I've got about 15 billion in loot in cans. It just sits there. I mean, I don't go and sell it because I don't have disc right now, but I don't use it because it's in a can. I just forget it's there. But you know, if I'm flying that shit on my ship, then yeah, it's scary to lose it. But that's the name of the game. You know, you don't take part. You don't die. You don't live. Really.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
That makes it real. That's what makes Eve the game it is because that risk of loss and the risk of finding.
Yeah, when you said earlier, like you said you might die a few times when you start or whatever. I'm like, yeah, and a few times later and the times after that. But your kills, if you learn, you get more kills per death. So
I mean, it's
you have to lose ships to kill.
You don't fly what you can't afford, but it doesn't mean you can't. You'll never not be able to afford a Rifter with a few T1 mods on. Yeah. And if you kill a couple of things with that, then you've got your money back and you can afford to buy the next ship. And, you know, there's a little bit of investment in there. There's always a risk, but it's so worth taking.
Absolutely.
So, what is your favorite kind of activity in faction warfare? Are you really into like the like? It sounds like you're into the conquest of the systems. Are you also into the concepts of like solo play, or are you more big faction?
I'm not a big soloer. I have my kill board pointed out to be a fair amount because I mean, under 1,000 solo kills is not solo, right? But that's because I tend to pull a fleet together. I don't necessarily. I do a bit of FC, but most time I'll just organise and I'll drag people in and we'll go and plex a few systems or fight a few women or whatever. So I'm very rarely solo. I'm not a bad solo pilot. I actually kind of cheat, I guess, but I was in the frigate document that comes out. Meta. You know the frigate document they bring out. That's a PDF with all the frigate types of faction warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was top worm pilot last year with 147 kills or something in there. So I do get around a bit with it, but yeah, it's flying what I can afford to lose. You know, it's
dangling a worm in a novice plex is a lot of fun.
Well, no, I don't do that. You see, because what I tend to do is I do like to plex. I plex a lot, I deplex a lot. So I normally have 2 or 3 of my outs in punishers, in plexes, just stabilizing our areas or whatever, and then I'd bounce around the worm. So whenever they get a tackle, they're brick tank punishers. They're gonna hold on to it. And I'm gonna turn up in the worm and just kill it because I want to deplex your system, you know. But if I'm out and about, then I'll pull a fleet together and we'll go and shoot Mimitor because that's the game, isn't
it? Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. So yeah, you when you guys do get a fleet together, is it because do you do any kind of like standardized fleets where you like we're always going to go out and do something on this day, or are you guys much more of like a response kind of thing? Like
we do a mixture. I mean, we respond to what's being pushed and where the action is a lot of the time, but being part of a big alliance, we've got other things that we have to cook on, and watch out for as well. So we'll ping for those fleets. We like to go and shoot structures. I mean, I think some of them in Matar were complaining the other week that we've literally raised the entire Warzone of their Astra houses and structures but I mean, it was a way to get content because they weren't coming out to fight us, so we're going to shoot their shit, and they didn't come to defend it.
Absolutely.
So we died, it's the way it goes. But we do react to a lot of those things. Generally, day to day, we'll go out and just plex systems, or go and last week we were defending Dow, which they put. I mean, fair play to them, Mimitar. They no-lifed it for 3 days solid. And I was trying to pull a fleet together most of our AUTZ and during the EU time zone, and we just didn't have enough pilots to contest it. We'd have some good brawls in the evening when the EUs got on and the US were coming on early, but we just didn't have enough to stop them during the off time zone. So we had a few good days of content, and then they flipped it. But it drove it for a week, and we're going to have a few more of those because, the Warzone's in contention at the moment, and Mimitar are winning, but it's mainly due to farm pressure. I feel. I mean, UK are doing a fair bit themselves, but there's an awful lot.
Yeah,
of
farming in faction warfare is an issue.
It's always been an issue. I mean, one thing I've noticed this year is a lot less bots around. Like last year, there were so many coercer bots everywhere. In your Warzone, in our Warzone.
I mean, I've killed a lot of coercer bots in my Warzone.
Well, recently, so
recently they have slowed down. They slowed down. I killed
in the last
coming to
3 months, I would say. Last 3 months, it's been I don't really see them, and a lot of times I'll see a coercer, and all of a sudden it's not a bot. Last night I went in and I was it was the beginning of my stream. It was in a small. And I'm like, oh, it's a coercer bot. I'm going to just go murder it, but it's probably just going to fly away. And so when I land, all of a sudden, I'm lock it up, okay, point it. And all of a sudden, I'm at 2% hull within 4 seconds. And I'm this is not good. I'm going to die. And all of a sudden, I start repping. And the Atron just got right underneath the guns. And it was just perfectly able to survive. And somehow, some way, I totally gave him a thumbs up, and I was like, "Dude, you should come on to the show and get interviewed." And he's like, "No." I was like, "That's okay."
It's fuck off. But you killed me with an Atron, you dick.
But no, he would love the fight too.
but yeah, there's a lot less bots around this year, which is good. But there's still, I mean, you see it suddenly out of nowhere, the other side get a shitload more players. You're like, "What's happened there?" And it's literally farmers going, "It's time to the LP's worth more. Let's do it." So. You can't resist that. I mean, and that's that tier system again. If we can level that off or do something with that, then maybe that wouldn't be such a flip flop, and maybe more contention over a longer period of time. But it is what it is. You deal with it, and you just go shoot everything you can.
Yeah,
shoot all the things. Absolutely,
always. Never not shoot the things.
Can you explain to our viewers what your role within the Alliance, what your role within the warfare community is?
We're a corp of fairly mostly skilled players. So we've been around a bit, we've come back. So we initially brought in a lot of ISK and a lot of just pure experience, people who fly comms and actually know how to fly them properly. Nowadays we're one half of Control V, so we're one half of Localist Primary with the EU side. You had OPEC on the other day. He was one of our main EU FCs, and we do a lot of organisation. So we make sure within the alliance as well. My corp has actually got a really good industry backbone. So we can produce some of my guys who are, they're scary the amount of shit they produce, but they produce T2 ships en masse. So we can make sure that we've always got ships available. And we do tend to have a lot of comps now. So we do Gila Bazi, we do Sacrilege Guardian, we do Legions, there's things for different things. So Gila Bazi for going out and running a Plex or taking an Astra House kill. And then Legions drop on stuff with blobs. So when you've got quite a few comps, you need to have a good organisational backbone and a good logistics wing. So we've all got outs with jump freighters. You know, I've got a Titan for bridging, because these are things. I mean, it's not essential, but they're all things that really help you mobilise around the war zone. So we're primarily a driver. We drive our part of the alliance, and push supply to the alliance.
That's awesome. Awesome. So one of the things that we've been kind of touching base with everybody is, and it sounds like you guys had you just talked about that you had a list of what improvements would you like to see to come to faction warfare. So if you were given the stick, if you were given the driving wheel, and you could take control of
you were emperor for a day,
right? And you could decree.
I'd remove Immatar from no. Yeah, I mean, it's a list as long as I mean, there are some things you could do that are small that would really help, like things like roll the plex timer backwards and when you force someone off. So rather than counting forward and stopping, it just starts counting back to 0. Not completely, not flip the other way, just back to 0 and stop back at 0. So downtime plexing. I mean, we found it's okay. It goes both ways, but if you're on at 10 past 12, you can flip 7% in one go if you've got 10 plexes, and you get all those roamers and always tend to fall in the system that you're defending or attacking, which is just a bit unfair. I mean, that shouldn't be all in one go. It should be they start spawning in the same every half an hour like they normally do, and you shouldn't get roamers at the same time, because it just gives so much advantage to someone who can log on while we're all working or you're sleeping, so that's a really frustrating thing. And the other thing is the people who run. Faction warfare is supposed to encourage fights. I want to be able to slide into a plex after somebody and not see him warping out straight away. The rat scram or ESS bubble, whatever. Something just that makes you have to commit to your plex for a little bit. Those are little improvements, and the tier system. It just needs to go. Maybe something based on how long you've been in the militia. So if you're staying in the militia for years, maybe you get better rewards rather than these guys who come in flip-flop side to side because the war zone changes hands. Those sorts of quality of life improvements that probably don't seem too hard to code, but would make a massive difference to people playing the game.
That's interesting. Yeah, and I've talked about a lot of those as well, and I completely agree. And one of the things I completely had forgotten about the rollback timer, but that's been something that we've been asking for a long time. Is that if you're not in a plex, it shouldn't just sit there at the.
You speak to a lot of action warfare players. They'll give you the similar sort of list, maybe not the same words, but they'll give you the same concepts. I mean, like I say, there's a video of me in 2009 going to say, CCP, we need to get LP for closing places, and what's the point? And that took years to get in. So we've been asking for these improvements for years, and there's no sign, which is a sad thing. But hopefully, the more streams, the more emails, the more posts on Discord and posts on forums, that someone might listen at some point and actually go, there's a few of these things we can implement that are easy for us to do, and the majority of people seem to want. So we'll just keep making more noise about it, don't we?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think the squeaky wheel gets the grease, man, and and I think this is an important part of the mechanism that is EVE Online. Ever since it came out, faction warfare seems to be the place for just on your doorstep, nonstop PvP. You're not going to get per se kicked out of, but you get pushed back maybe. Your doorstep, but
I mean, the sad thing is, you saw how much iteration the Trig stuff got. I mean, well, up to a point, obviously, because the Eden Comp stuff came in and just got lost. But the Trig battles and the way Trigs took systems and stuff, that's all stuff that we could use in faction warfare. Those sort of little fleets to go and fight other fleets. There's a lot of concepts that were put in that surely should just translate straight across to what we do and actually make our experience better.
Yeah, that's some bigger things that I think like should be bigger. It's bigger, but it's easy to. I feel like it's there.
It's
Like
already
they
there.
have the
Yeah.
diamond rats. We have the rats fighting rats. We should have, you know, the NPC. And I feel like CCP should be involved in faction warfare. I
Definitely.
mean,
I mean,
it's
rather than shooting IHUB, why don't you have to go fight a Mimitar NPC diamond fleet to
right.
achieve, you know, like they come in last minute, like we're going to defend the system from you, you have to kill us. And then, so you have, rather than having your ragtag bunch of catalysts around the IHUB, suddenly you've got to put a fleet together with logic to actually fight that properly to flip the system. You know, it seems a lot more, there's a lot of stuff in there that we could use now that it's just been wasted now. The trigs are over and stuff.
Right. I feel like the PvE in faction warfare and just EVE Online teaches you not how to play EVE. And I feel like faction warfare should be the place that you go to learn how to PvP against some PvE to start you off.
We've had some diamond rat encounters. I think Harkon mentioned them before in Floss when we had diamond rats bouncing around, and they're hard they're almost like PvP content. You know, we've had them attacking our Astra houses and reinforcing them at one point. You know, they are good content. So I don't want so much PvE in my faction warfare, but the current stuff that's there isn't enough. So like, you shouldn't be able to deplex a system easily either. You shouldn't be able to sit an empty hull in a plex and run the timer through. You should have to maybe fight something again. So maybe there should be 2 rats in there. You know, one defending, one attacking. They're at a permanent stalemate, and then you go in there and you shoot the one that's fed to you.
Yeah.
You know? So,
well, that's the other thing. I don't know why they have it still. If they're on your team, they're still a red rat. Like, why?
No,
that should be a simple. That should be a simple code fix.
And we still shoot them because we want the free SP, right? So you shoot the rat even though it's your rat because you can. Doesn't shoot back.
And then there's the you know, for me, I think one of the big things is I think that CCP needs to throw events. And like be throwing us on the news and talking about this is the system. The Amar Empress has said this system goes today, and if it doesn't, then then I will be upset with the gods, blah 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 or whatever.
The faction warfare and our roleplay events have a big history. You know, we've had lots. I don't know how much Caldari had, but in Galentia, but we've had a lot of content, like the Flossers Wing campaign, driven by our roleplay stories. And one of the guys who I've spent a lot of time with since we came back to faction warfare, so called Aldrich. You might have spoken already, but he's very much up on the roleplay side. And when CCP does do an article, he's like, we need to go defend these systems because they're in this article. And I think Mimitar, to a lesser extent, also follow those articles. And they have driven some great content. So if that was amped up a little bit, just to say, Empress says Dal's under attack, you need to go muster and help, then a lot more of those role-play alliances might get involved. I mean, we've had fallings out with some of the big role-play alliances like Pi and Lumen, because they're role-play, but they don't do faction warfare because it's not role-play enough for them, or they'd rather role-play in high-sec. You're like, well, actually, this is the core, this is the real role-play. You are really working for the MR. You should be not working with, say, Electus Matari, who are a Mimitar loyalist group, because you're MR, so you should be here helping us PvP these guys. And they make up all sorts of stories, and if you go on the role-play discords, they're very, very clicky and very difficult to get into. And the same with the intergalactic forums on CCP, they're quite clicky again. So you try and drive some content on there, and they'll just go, yeah, you're not role-playing good enough for us. Like we tried last year with Locust Primary to say we were going to nuke on the moons in Bosberger because it was fun. And they were like, oh, you can't do that. And you're like, well, why not? It's just a bit of fun. I'm trying to drive some content again, and I think there's a lot. Eevee's probably the one game where there's an awful lot of role-play potential. you could use.
Right,
You
and
don't seem to be harnessing that enough.
there's so much backstory, so much role play that happens. But the one thing is I feel like Eve always wants to be like player driven, player driven, player driven. But I feel like this is the spot that should, like, most other content should be pretty strongly player driven. But I feel like faction warfare is the place where you get to play with lore and you get to play with all this stuff, and just, there should be like 4 people who are, one in charge of each empire, who are also in the background in CCP playing a game of chess with each other, of 4D, 4-player chess.
It's all there. I mean, we've got guys who go around the systems preaching gospel in local, which is it's fun, and fair play to them because they enjoy doing that. Pardon me. But there is a real lack of drive. But again, there's a whole lot of lack of drive around faction warfare, as we've just been saying. So maybe it goes hand in hand, Because I remember back when when we started out, there was a lot more content being driven by the stories and the canon that exists. And there seems to be it's now just I want board, I'll put some roleplay piece out rather than actual proper proper
yeah, I feel like
storyline.
There's not really a lot of talk it feels like the EVE Online forums feel dead when it comes to most roleplay. Like, there isn't a lot of back and forth. Like, it's not the Jade Constantine days, it's not
those are the days when we got into faction warfare. I actually got a battle report here for when we fought Jade Constantine's lot in Camella in 2009, and it was just such a good fun. I mean, the guy annoyed the shit out of me, but it was good content. We killed like 7 of his carriers or something, and it was great fun. But yeah, there isn't enough of that anymore. There needs to be more of that. But
yeah,
I think would I take that over the actual improvement to the content? I don't know. I think I'd rather have the actual mechanics fixed rather than the role play. But if we get both, then woo.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, the quality of life, especially, I think the tier system needs some kind of special revamp. Like the LP store needs to be reevaluated. There's a lot of quality of life kind of improvements, but I think in the long run, you need to do that alongside of if you're gonna have commercials and stuff, faction warfare should be in there. But I think that one of the things you kind of hit the head on, though, is that because there's less people interested in faction warfare, CCP is less interested in faction warfare.
And I think that's a great loss, because I think faction warfare actually would get a lot of people, especially if it was easy to dip your toe in and dip out. And I mean, I know I was on about earlier about length of time in service, but for some of these guys who only have one character, maybe they want to come in and just do a few months worth and spend their reserves of years and then go and make some more. So there's maybe something there, but there was something you touched on I was about to come back with, and I completely lost it, so apologies for that.
Well, that's why we're doing this show, right? To bring more people to faction warfare and get CCP's fucking attention and tell them, hey, come on, make it better.
I mean, it's a massive hole of play that people miss out on. I think they don't think there's content there, but I mean, Nosec is dead. I mean, I've taken trips out through Nosec, and unless you're in a big alliance and you're in one corner of the map, the majority of it is dead. Whereas when I started, there were people everywhere. Everyone had a pos up, everyone was renting space. Nowadays, there's nothing. Whereas faction warfare and Nosec generally there's always somebody out there, especially in our zones. There's always fights going on. There's always people plexing. Even if you're sliding on a plex and just want to go and ruin someone's day, that content's there. You won't get that anywhere else. You don't fly around Nosec and find people just sitting in space waiting for you to come shoot them.
Right, and that's, I mean, you might have a miner here and there, you might have a new corporation trying to set up operations for the first time in Nosec. You can find the kernels of beautiful gems that are hidden deep inside the mound of unbelievable crap that is just mostly out there. There's nothing out there to do. Faction warfare in Nosec is where you can just there's a plex, people go there that are not plexing because they just want to fight. It's like a beacon of here's where people go punch each other in the nose. And you don't really have that anywhere else in the game.
And that's why I love it. It's because I can go out and I can go sit in the plagues, And if I could send me AFK and I might lose my ship, or I could just sit there and wait. And okay, I mean, flex timers do get really boring after a while. You know, watching that clock count down is like, but when you have a fight, it's what's worth it. You know, you have a good close fight, or you gank someone, or you know, just find a fight and lose. It's good content, and it's right there all the time.
Yeah, and I feel like one big addition would be just adding diamond rats or replacing everything with diamond rats, because I feel like when I'm fighting diamond rats, I feel a little, it's nowhere near what PvP kind of feel of like satisfaction I get, but it gets close, you know, it
does
touches on
teach you
it.
really important things like logi, you know, having to rep your buddy and actually watch what you're taking, using watch lists, following your leader. These are core concepts in PvP, and only diamond rats in the PvE environment actually come close to giving you that learning experience of how to kill them properly and safely, because they are buggers to kill. We've run a few fobs around here, and they're just horrible to deal with. You know, pages of diamond battleship traps to get through. You know, and you're sitting there with Lashaks and transferring up remote reps. It's not PvP, but it's interesting content, and I think if you can mash those two together in faction warfare, it would make things a lot more fun for everybody.
Right, and I mean we can still keep the plexes and stuff, just have other stuff going on, like, you know, especially, you know, it would be cool to see the diamond rats fighting each other like they had going on for a little while. That would be kind of cool to see too.
I mean, we had great fun in Flossers when literally kiting the diamond rats and taking them to the Minmatar structure and then leaving them there, so they were shooting that rather than us, you know. But it's novel. It's things that you do. But I mean, if you were pushing a system and say it's getting near, or you're defending a system and it's getting near to flip, maybe you have to, you know, have the reinforcements from the Amar rats behind you, or you know, the reinforcements from Minmatar to help them defend it, and just a little bit more content. I mean, I'd rather have PvP content, but the PvP content we've got, sorry, the PvE content of the PvP content we've got isn't good enough, really.
Right.
It's quite limited.
Yep.
So,
and Johnny Black is like saying like he gets sweaty when they're killing fobs. Like it would be cool if we had special faction warfare fobs or something that were out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really cool kind of little things that I think that is already in the game that they could just slap into faction warfare, do a reskin and call it faction warfare, and then do some minor updates, and then just call it an expansion, and like, you know, like focus everything on, I mean, you know, ad wise, like go to the PvP zone, like we thought go to Valhalla.
There was a few months, well, last year there were some videos with some events where random dreads turned up in systems.
Yes,
we kind of thought that was going to be start of a faction warfare thing, and it just went away. It was kind of like, well, you started something here. Where was that going? Which seems a bit of a waste again. But it was fun, but it could have been more. It could have been leading to more.
Right.
So Johnny there is one of my industrialists. So he mines with like 3 or 4 orcas to get some of the stuff we need, and then he has to go and kill the fobs on his own. So he's got like 6 or 7 accounts running these fob killers. So he does get sweaty, but
Oh, also, so Samson, thank you so much for the gifts, and that is the Wolverine fan, I believe, that you're talking about with the chops. He's got beautiful chops.
Yeah, I'm Hugh Jackman.
See what Hugh Jackman on there. It's a local Just Waffle in game, and we actually met. He actually joined Minmatar when he started out, and we shot him a few times. And he came over to Red Sky Morning to join Monk. He lost some ridiculously expensive faction ships, and I'm like, I don't care, you know, you go out and do you. But he's probably one of the guys on priority stuff, because we took him as a new guy, and he's running around with a carrier behind him, killing shit in Anmak. You know, it's great fun. So you know, these are the guys that you pick up when they're young, and they stay with you for years because you teach them, you help them along, and they have a loyalty to that. I've got guys who we've worked with before, who've left the game or gone elsewhere and then come back later on, because you've got in Eve, you've got real friendships.
No, yeah, I've so many people, like, I have so many Eve friends that are no longer playing Eve that I'm still really good friends with, just
Completely.
because we had played Eve Online together. I do. There's Madison's a weird universal place in the universe for some reason, where like there's just a drawing of Eve Online players that are here. Like everywhere I go, it's just like you bump into another Eve Online player that's like,
Yeah.
usually it's like I've only played for so long, or I used to FC, I used to do something, and now I don't do it anymore. But it's really interesting just how many people I've like been like, oh, you should come back, jump into faction warfare,
Exactly. Yeah.
go kill some
Just
stuff.
bring those people back. 'Cause that's the thing. I mean, when you get to a point with Eve where you haven't got the time investment you used to have. You can't spend hours waiting for a fight. Faction warfare, you don't. If you, I mean, yeah, some people need people to help them get content, but generally, if you can undock a ship and go do a plex, you'll find your own content. You
Yep.
don't need to wait for someone to lead you there. It's there. Just go out, undock, and go get it. Whereas Nosec, you just go, well, when's this fleet coming up, and what am I going to do for the next 6 hours? Am I going to do some ratting? And that's boring. No one likes that. It's boring as shit.
Yep.
And I remember before I was like heavy into PvP, faction warfare scared me. I was like, no, I don't want to get blown up by.
I don't know. I mean, for me, low sec and faction warfare is unironically much safer than high sec. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
When
Especially now,
we're
because of the
running,
pirates.
yeah, we're running around the. But I mean, I've got out with a jump freighter, and I'm going to go to Jita to get some shit. I am so much more scared of the short trip from the low sec system I jump into Jita. A couple of 2-3 jumps. That scares me more than a week in low sec, because they can just gank you and you can do nothing about it, and there goes your 12 billion is jump freighter,
Yep.
Whereas low sec, I can gate my DST and I'm not worried. They can't touch me because I can warp cloak or whatever. It's weird how much easier it is in low sec, and people don't realize this till they actually spend some time there. The targets are much more obvious. You're not going to get surprised. You might jump into a gate camp, you might get out, you might not, but there's a lot less fear of the unknown in low sec. As weird as that sounds.
Yeah, no, it's for me. It's high sec is the most dangerous place in the game. Low sec is kind of dangerous, but not so dangerous. And it, depending, 0.0 can be about as dangerous, or maybe a little bit more dangerous than low sec, or super safe. The safest you could ever be. You will never run into an enemy.
The only thing that scares me about Nosec is losing my pod, because you can't warp out. If you lose your pod in Nosec, sorry, low sec, you're doing something wrong, or you DC'd, like I did today.
Or you forgot that you had shit in your head, so you.
Well, no, yeah,
I do that all the time.
I DC'd the Hulk, killed my pod. I mean, I'm quite embarrassed, but it happens. shit happens. But in Nosec, you're going to lose your pod because you're going to get bubbled. Yep. Whereas everywhere else, you should never lose your pod.
Yep. No, and that's and bubbles is what makes it kind of crazy, but they don't have gate guns. And then and then you have the whole, like, you own this area. Like, you can stop people from docking in most 0.0, except for some of the NPC null, like 0.0 out there, which is, kind of like low sec with bubbles, and no gate guns.
Well, I had great fun in Stain when we were a small self-sufficient corps doing that, but it's not a lot. You can't spend that much time out there, because the other people in the areas do tend to gang up on you if you're a small independent. You have to be part of the Blue Donut, and just, it's no fun, Whereas low sec, faction, you can lock people out of their systems, but you just got to take the system first, which is entirely doable.
Yeah, and then they can also sit just on the outskirts of the war zone and be like, okay, I can live here, but if you want to go deep into the war zone at all, then you're gonna have to either.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see some, like the frontline thing, which people talk about, where they can't they can plex your back line, but they can't flip it, because it's sometimes hard when you're defending like the important systems and someone's in the back at arse end of nowhere plexing your shit up, and you're like, there's one guy who's been lived there for the past 3 weeks doing it, and you're just like, well, you can't stop him because he's never there when you go. But it'd be nice if they couldn't flip those systems until they'd flipped a connecting system. But again, these are things that were a wish list, aren't they?
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, like you said though, the more we suggest, the more that we talk about suggesting, the more that we play, the more that we get people into it and try and, you know, deal with, because even with the way that faction warfare is, it's fun. I think that with some of the quality of life updates that they've done, there's a lot to be said in the current state that it's in. The biggest thing I think that faction warfare needs more than anything else in the right now is just more people. Like if we had double the numbers, we would have double the fights, we'd have double the fun, and then all of a sudden everything would be,
I mean, that's it. You need more people in those systems because that gives you the content. I mean, to be fair, we need. I mean, I remember when Eve was concurrent PCU loads of like 50,000 people.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And we're probably down 24, 25, 30k now. You know, so it's taking a massive dive. And I'm running 6 accounts, so I feel like this Nosec has run 2 or 3. So the real player count is probably a lot less. But we need those people back, you know, and the only way people come back is by finding content that they can enjoy. And faction warfare is the content for people who are too old to sit on a Titan all day and worry about the kids next door, because you can just go and dock up when the kids play up, you know, if you need to.
Yeah, that's the thing about the Warzone is right on your doorstep, so you don't, you know, one of the things I didn't like about 0.0 was like the 6-hour fleet, you know, like even if you were just gonna go out to go somewhere and go fight something,
that's one of the reasons
we know there's an enemy, but they're 40 jumps away and we're doing a thing, and you
can't log off because you might not know what's there when you come back. You can't drive yourself home because there's 40 jumps between you and home. There's nowhere safe for you to go, so you're stuck out there till the fleet finishes and you get bridged home, or you follow the FC home.
And death matters in Eve, so you know, if it was World of Warcraft, that's a different story because you just die and go back home or whatever, but you don't even have travel times and stuff like that. Any other game, like the logistics of this game is crazy.
But at the same point, it does put restrictions on what certain things you can do.
Yep, and that's where you gotta decide on what you want to do. Well, we are coming close to the end here. I do want to talk about a couple pieces of news real quick. But before we do that, I want to give you a chance to shout out to anybody that you want to shout out to, or anything that you're working on, any projects, your personal life, whatever you want to talk about as a human being, whether it's Eve related or not. This is your time to shine. Spotlight on you. Who are you showing out to? I
want to shout out to our AT team because they did fucking good this year. You know, 4th place is brilliant. So well done to them guys. Whether you're true Control V, Locals Primary or not, you did us proud. Again, it was a great AT. So well done to all the organisers. It was good fun to watch. I want to shout out to the Eve London guys because we had a great ball last week drinking in London. We had a meeting, met some of the Mimitar guys, met some random Nosec guys. It's good fun, and well done guys. It's a good stream. We've seen some good interesting content, and I want to keep you guys to keep it up. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Awesome. Well, so we do have a couple of things, and I'm not sure if you're aware of what's going on in the world as well, but feel free to speak up as well. But one of the big things that just got released is from extraction to production blog that just kind of came out.
There's been a lot of discussion about it. I've seen a lot of crying in Jita this last couple of days as well.
Yes, so we're gonna get to what kind of response we kind of had on this, but Samson's gonna kind of bring us through the basics here of this from extraction to production.
In chat already, that sucks from Red.
Red, I'm sure, is not a fan of this.
Yeah, as part of a new Dawn update, the foundations that have been built will be expanded upon, and there will be full transition into the redistribution phase with a comprehensive, and this is the dev blog, by the way, Eve dev blog, update to mining and balance, pass to industry, including above points and more, which are introduction of moon ore and gas compression to better facilitate the newly decoupled industry changes, a balanced pass for all mining ships, additional specialized holds for gas and ice. In addition, the goal is to provide players with more opportunity for resource gathering, better agency for efficient production, and to facilitate transportation of materials. This will also add clearer progression to the mining path, as well as adding value to those who choose to specialize in their career. This update introduces more raw materials into New Eden, compression for gas, ice and moon ore update to mining and mining crystals, and a rebalancing, and this is probably the big thing, a rebalancing of the Orca and Rorqual as well as other mining ships. While the Orca and Rorqual will no longer be the best solo mining platforms, they are receiving a buff to their command bonuses and adding new roles. I'm pretty sure this is what Red is probably yammering on about in the chat right now that I haven't seen yet. All the details here in the support document are a work in progress and subject to change. Released on Tranquility. The highlights, however, include doubling resources quantities of ore and asteroid belts. All Omber, Kernite, and Corkite quantities are doubled in Sov anomalies. Ice belts on top of the previous 200% increase. Mycosaracin, Cytosaracin, and Fullerene. Double the extraction rate from all moons. Reduced PI materials required for certain subcapital and capital components. Having water for core temperature regulators used in battleships and capital construction. Significant reduction in P4 materials used to capital component production. Adding new specialized gas and ice holds to T1 industrials, expedition frigates, T1 barges, and T2 exhumers. Increasing the resistance of profiles of all exhumers, increasing the base HP of and adding mid-slot 2 Coveter and Retriever, adding new gas harvesters for all mining barges and exhumers, introducing a new compact industrial core for the Orca, adding compensation for Mycosaracin, Cytosaracin, Fullerene, Moon Ore, condensing all reprocessing skills from 19 individual skills to 6. That's a big change. Refunding up to 13 million points in optionally reallocating into new categories. ISK will also be refunded as the base price for deleting skill books. Considering all mining crystals into the following categories: common, uncommon, rare, superior, abyssal, and Mercoxit. I didn't even pronounce that. Mercoxic. Introducing mining waste and new variants for each mining crystal: standard yield, high waste, less reliable, lower yield, very high waste, and very reliable. And of course, everything in that I just read is a placeholder, so it could change.
Yeah, so so there's a lot of words there, but I think the big things that so Macros is pointing out that all the moon mining or to not lose regular ore from the reprocessing all around Eve that they have in stashes. He's pretty upset about the waste and the compression changes. And I know that a lot of Roycule and Orca pilots are not happy about the changes to that. And so that kind of sparked what, happened with the Jitter riots that we just kind of had, where they go shoot a monument to declare to Eve, to CCP, that they are not happy with the changes that they're doing. And we haven't had a riot in a while. So there is In has a nice little blog about it, or a little article about it, but let me just double check here. But I think we got up to 6,745 people in local, which is just above the 6,739 that was in local during the M2 second timer. So not all of them, of course, are probably protesting because it is Jeddah. But Jeddah normally, I think, holds around 2,000 people, if I'm correct. So, 4,000 people in the game, to a certain degree, give or take, with alts. Who knows the actual number? But there's thousands of people that are upset enough to go shoot a monument.
I don't think a lot of people are fully ready though. I think they're just backlashing out because of change. I mean, some of our guys have been looking at it and they've gone on Singularity and play, and actually they think it's a buff to short mining spurts, not to the big industrial mining operations, but for guys who just want to get out of the hulk in high sec and do a bit of mining with the right crystals, and that seems to be a bit of a buff for those guys. But a lot of the other stuff, I think it's still a bit too early to fully knee jerk on it. I think, but we'll still see knee jerk because that's Eve,
Yeah, and a lot of us are angry old men, so.
Yeah, we that is very true. So I'm not sure exactly what this all means, or even what it will be, because this is all suggested changes that they're will modify based upon feedback, I'm sure, to a certain degree.
I mine by shooting miners.
And I know that there's also more to the backlash too than just these changes. There's the NFTs that are being introduced. There's the idea that CCP has started to move more and more continuously away from being a passionate developer to a money
Yeah, but then
desire.
think of the big picture, and I'm not one to speak up for them generally, but their player count has dropped significantly. And they still have the same production costs, if not more, trying to do some of the things they do. So they are having to generate money to pay for to run the game and to pay their employees somehow. So there's gonna be some move towards monetizing things. And if you're not subscribing to the game anymore, if you're just want to play as an alpha, you're not helping CCP run the game. So there's a balance to everything. I mean, yeah, I was against monocles back then, although I did have one, still have it. But these are things they have to do to improve your game. So if you're going to just quit the game and go alpha, then you're going to expect to see more of these sorts of changes because they need to make money. They're a business.
That is true. I mean, I feel like some of us are, when it comes to like, they have less money right now because of the less players, but they also don't have all the crazy side projects that they have spent all the money that they made from EVE Online on things that did not bring back money.
No, the problem now is they're spending money on paying the Pearl Abyss or whatever it is who own them now. So I guess shareholders there.
Shareholders is a thing, but yeah, that's the thing is that they are a business. This is a capitalist world that we live in to a certain degree, and people need to make money in order to continue their existence. If Eve isn't making a profit, then there's problems.
I mean, I'd rather have them make money and keep the game going in for all of its problems that we talk about, than just have them go, we're closing the servers, we can't make this anymore. I think we all agreed that we want the game to continue and to improve. So you're gonna have to expect some of these things, and yeah, not everyone's gonna be happy, but at the end of the day, more subs probably should mean less monetization of these things.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes, though. I mean, Eve has been dying ever since it started, so I'm not too afraid.
It dies on forums daily.
I feel like Eve is still gonna make money, and that people are gonna. There's enough people that are gonna want to play Eve that it's enough to keep it alive. But it would be really nice if we had stuff that really brought in a lot of new players, and that's one of the things that I think like. The player knee-jerk reaction to walking in stations was one of the like really big detrimental things. So I'm always a little bit careful about these like riots because I didn't like the idea that you cut out so many people that need an avatar. Like they need to have something that they walk around with and go to a bar and hang out with their buddy, and then they jump into a spaceship and they fly around. Now
the problem is, it wasn't so much the walking stations at the time; it was the fact that they seemed to cease development of Eve.
Yes,
spaceships, which is a shame because if you look at the content that's out there now, like Star Citizen, people want to walk around their space stations, and some of the stuff that walking stations promised looked amazing, and I was all on board for it, but not at the cost of the game. And I think that they went from one going one way to completely going the other, which actually was detrimental in the long run. I think they could have just carried on with it in the background and actually not just abandoned it completely, which is a sad thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. So all right, let's go ahead and I think. Samson, are you pulling up some kill mails?
I just pulled this one up because Red linked it. It's a MOA that him and his Rorqual or Porpoise and Joe and his Astero got.
Nice.
I just thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah, do you I think that we're gonna do a quick peek at Notorious and just we try and put a spotlight on Notorious as much as possible now that the Notorious news is gone. So in kind of honor, if we have time, we try and talk about some kill mails that are out there. And Notorious is always our first stop, and I think that we don't really have a bunch of time to go into much more, so we'll go focus just on Notorious here. So Samson, tell us what's been going on in Taurus in the last 7 days.
I've been killing a lot of miners and explorers. So the top characters in the Taurus are Gwenevere Kenyon, which is me, Sweetie Chaser, Yidok, Lesler, Cthulhu, Dark Bomb. Those are the top 4. Not a lot of activity as of late, as you can see. I mean, like, not a lot of competition. I have 11 kills and I'm at the top. But let's see. This was an interesting kill,
So
actually.
that's
because
not your Gnosis. I thought that was yours. for a
No.
second there.
My Gnosis dropped off the top 7 like a few days ago. Because it gets blown up once in a while. But I thought this one was fun because it was a 1v1 Gnosis on Gnosis. And it looks like autocannons versus blasters.
Oh.
Blasters apparently lost, probably got kited into oblivion. 45 points. That's a beautiful thing to me. And, you know, I mean, they're always around 80, 90 unless you bling it out. So the main thing here I see is this nice solo Gnosis on Gnosis action. Jesus, I can't speak. Don't worry about me. I'm having a stroke. But yeah, and this PvP has been low lately because, you know, the Notorious News hasn't been focusing on this. But
Yeah,
I can't even pronounce this guy's name. Anino Kotoba Fururi. But he's a Fed, so that's cool. That's nice.
Oh yeah.
For us, our
Go
gals.
Fed Navy Well, that's Fed Navy Academy though. That's
yeah,
that's,
but I mean, it's Galente.
It's Galente-ish.
Galente.
That's where he was born. So
NPC Corp.
And let's see here really quick. Oh, they got wrecked. I'm just gonna put dunked there really quick on this Hecate. Because I fought Soju. These guys, they're cool guys. We were friends with them when we were blue. I feel like we're still friends, even though I killed them now. I'm not on this kill. But what I'm saying is that I did fight this person earlier in my worm in a plex, in a small plex, and they came in with I think it was a catalyst. And that wasn't in the Taurus, unfortunately, but they're a good pilot, and they were very surprised as to why they couldn't kill my worm with the catalyst. But yeah, shout out to them, and this nice dunk of a Hecate getting taken out here. But is this the Moa? Oh yes, okay. That was in the Moa that I started with was in Natoros, which is our very own Urza Red Macross in a fucking porpoise getting top damage on a Moa kill with Joe Bain in his Astero. So, I mean, it's always fun.
Love those kills, those random ones.
And I guess the last thing I'll say about Notorious is if you go into the top of all time, I'm working really hard. But the top are still Shadow at 1, Shadow Adanza at 2, Makarov Putin, 3, Scrupler, 4, Snick, 5, Going Off-Roading, 6, Hatgris, and there I am coming in at 7. But I'm close.
Working on your way up. It's always nice to have those like little victories in Eve, or those little trophies you can make of your own, where you're like, okay, I'm gonna be the most killing in this one star.
Please come to Natoros. I need more people to kill.
Or become competition for him and try and kill as much as he can.
Or kill more people. Yeah, you got a ways to go though. If you want to get past the person underneath me, Darren is at 300, so 329. It's hard, and not because you know, we're like elite PvPers or anything. It's hard because there's nobody PvPing to kill. So
you got to be the patient killer, you know, like this is my murder zone. I murdered you for coming into my system.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I do. That's how I like doing it.
So I think we'll go ahead and wrap it on up here. We're just a little bit over our normal show time. But thank you so much, CDLoon, for coming on. This has been awesome talking to you. Always great to have the other side of the aisle come on over,
I mean,
talk,
the
and
pond.
we're the other side of the R, but we all share the same views, right?
Right.
We're all pushing for the good of faction warfare.
absolutely, yeah, no, and that's
That's
like I said, you know, it's similar to any kind of sporting team thing. You know, I cheer for the Galente because that's, you know, the team that I believe in. But like in the end, I always find it really fun to have an enemy that's not really my enemy. You know, like there is reasons there 0.0 hatred is real, man. Like
yeah. But faction warfare hatred is much more pure.
it's so much more pure.
Yeah.
Right. It's exactly
Diana,
yeah.
we're coming for you.
So if you're interested in joining up with the war effort, there's tons of different corporations out there, alliances out there. Local is primary. I'm sure all of your corporations are recruiting. You also come over to the Golden Age stories here. Spies and alts welcome. You know, if you want to just come over and just hang out with the buddies and shoot with us every once in a while, even though we know that you're the Keldari. If you're gonna come and hang out with us, well, that's cool. I don't care, man. As long as we can murder shit.
Share the love.
And if you got alts, you know, that's all you can bring is just an alpha alt. That's fine. We got places for you. We got ships for you. If you didn't catch us live on Twitch, we do this every Sunday at 2300 Eve time. It changes depending on the time of the year, apparently, because that's how time works in our universe. I don't understand it, but sometimes it's, you know, during the summer times, it's the 2200. Now that we're getting into the winter months, it is 2300 now that the time change happens, which is, I want to rant about that all day long, but I can't right now. So,
there's no point for it in this day and age, is there? We've got street lights, for fuck's sake. Why do you need to put time back? You don't.
Why do we have to manipulate time? Like, why do like this is the shittiest time travel I've ever experienced.
Yeah,
Exactly.
waking up groggy.
There's
But
my dealer in.
But it's always going to be 5 p.m. Central Time, you know, because 5 p.m. Central Time changes from time to time. Because I'm Central Time.
You're 5 p.m. Central
And
Time.
okay,
and you run the
I
show.
will always be also 3 p.m. Pacific Time or 6 p.m. Eastern Time.
Unless you guys stop doing fucking daylight savings.
Unless
2300 UK time or British, you know, GMT.
Yeah.
GMT, yep, yeah, and I do like how Eve is at least GMT. That I like that.
Yeah, for us it's 6 months of the year we're on the same time, and then the other 6 months we're not. We're an hour behind ahead, so it's annoying.
Why humans? You're so crazy. I swear it's because they were like, we're gonna do time travel.
I mean, I get it in the old days, but these days,
yeah.
no point.
But yeah, so, and if you didn't catch us live on Twitch, you can always catch us on the Federation Frontline Report. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes. So if you just want to check the audio out, you can get us on the podcast. You want to get the whole visual experience, we've, of course, got the VODs on Twitch, but you also have us on YouTube at Golden Age Stories. If you have any news that you want us to talk about, anything that you think is noteworthy, battle reports, you know, anything that you want us to talk about, definitely shoot it on over to me, email at Frozen Fallout. You can also send it to us by email, federationfrontlinereport@gmail.com. Hit us on up and we'll get those stories into our future episodes. Thank you all definitely for watching. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you, Samsons, for being the epic co-host that you are. And have a great night.
Take care, everybody. Bye, safe.